Good morning, students. I have given you this topic of group behavior and teamwork to deal with your friends in groups. So the work has been really nice, and I appreciate each one of you for the time and efforts you have put in making this seminar successful. Because of the slides which you prepared, the coordination and all, it was really very good. So now in this topic, why I am taking this for topic is that, like, I felt like maybe certain clarity would be good if I can in brief explain you what is the whole topic trying to deal in an industrial sector. Okay, so basically in an industry we have two kinds of groups, or rather you would say like two set of people, one forming the group and one forming the team. So in a group, what are the kind of behaviors that are expected and that have been shown to us, whereas in teams we get to know what are the how does the team work, how is it formed, and how they are more efficient in achieving the goals. Okay, so that is what this topic is going to deal. This chapter is going to deal. It is completely from an industrial perspective. So now we go to the next one. So here now we are going to see into the nature and functions and types of groups. So first of all, the definition is we define group as two or more individuals interacting and interdependent who have come together to achieve a particular objective. So that is what is called as a group. So down, as you can see in the slide, you are able to see around five people standing, and each one of them is having a different banners. So with that we can make out that they are interdependent on each other, and they are actually interacting with each other in order to achieve a particular goals. So that can be their plans, or that's how it is trying to project here. So Gordon was the one who believed that the collection of people is to be called as a group, which can be said provided the four criteria are met. So so the first criteria here is the members of the group must see themselves as a unit. Yes, when you are a part of a group, you shouldn't be selfish. You should see to it that all four of your, five of your, as many members are there in a group, you are all part of one particular unit. You are a single unit. Okay, so as second years, irrespective of boys and girls, you are a single unit. So like that it should be seen. Then the group must provide rewards to its members, so you need to get your rewards. That's what appreciation comes. That's where you know that's where you are appreciated. That's where in front of everyone you are recognized for what you are. Then anything that happens to one member of the group affects every other member. That's very true, because if one member of the group is upset or affected with something, all of us together are equally affected by the fact. And the members of the group must share a common goal. Obviously everybody must share a common goal. So that's what it is. So when we are going to discuss into the functions and types of the groups, so here types of the groups, there are multiple types of groups, but we are going to just stick to the basic types of the group, which is of two types, that is a formal group and an informal group. Okay, class, so please be clear on that particular point. So here we are going to see the types of the groups can be of two types. It can be either a formal group or an informal group. Okay, a formal group it is defined as per the organization structure with designated work assignments, establishing tasks. Okay, the behaviors team members engage in this group are stipulated by and directed towards the organizational goals. Okay, the informal group is neither formally structured or organizationally determined. These are natural formation in the workplace as a response for need of social contact. Three employees from different departments who regularly have lunch together become an informal group. Informal group promotes friendship as well as cooperation in work. These types of interaction deeply affect individuals in behavior and performance. So as you can see here, there are three images. One image you can see, maybe it's a part of a group where you are able to see different kind of people sitting together, and this can be the other group where it is completely a set of group of ladies who are from different races and ethnicities and different departments. They are all coming together, and they can be an example of an informal group. And a formal group can be the example of, as you can see, there is some kind of a buck kept here, an NGO, where people are, NGO is also considered as an organization there, because in this scenario I haven't put an image of an office setup. So for now we can take it like it's a part of an organization, NGO, and people are sitting there together, so that is also a part of a group. Then here you can see like that's a formal group, that NGO. Here it's an informal group. Then on the right side you see that two cyclists, they are sitting just relaxing their time together, so they are also a part of an informal group. So what we see is that in a formal group, the individuals, they behave in such a way that they are directed towards achieving the organizational goal. Okay, example, six members of an airline flight crew. Yes, if there are six members in the flight crew, what are the responsibilities? They should see to it that the flight is properly, it has properly taken off and properly landed, so that becomes a formal group. Okay, and also the informal group is, it's not formally structured or organizationally determined, but what happens out of interest, what happens, the different employed, because of the sake of a social contact, and out of interest, different departments, different employees from various departments, they come together, they connect with each other, they become a part of an informal group, which helps to promote friendship, and also it helps in cooperating properly on the work front. So the interactions which the people have in an informal group, it affects their performance and behavior. Okay, so now the next point is about role differentiation. Role is a set of expected behavior patterns attributed to someone occupying a given position in a social unit. Within the role, there is role identity, role perception, role expectations, and role conflict. Okay, so what is role differentiation? It is a set of expected behavioral patterns, okay, which is attributed to someone, which is identified to someone occupying a given position in a social setup. Okay, so so within that role we have so many points coming. That is, the first point is role identity, where are certain behaviors, that is certain actions and attitudes which is consistent with a particular role, is called as a role identity. Like for example, you can take an example of a teacher. Teacher is a human being. What are the actions and roles connected with that? What are the actions and attitudes that's consistent? Her action is like she coming and teaching the students, she's giving them assignments, she's talking to them at a teacher level, she is maintaining her point of a teacher as a staff, so that becomes a role identity. Okay, next is role perception. Role perception is like our own view on how we ourselves visualize and are expected to act in a given situation. We engage in certain types of performance based on how we feel we are supposed to act. So this role perception becomes a challenge for any individual, any human being. That is, for example, an employee, he is working in the office, and at the same time his presence at home is also very essential. So now this employee, he has to perceive, he has to understand that what is more important. Is it like being with the family is more important, or work is more important? But he should also ensure that because of work he shouldn't neglect his family, and because of family he shouldn't neglect his work. So he has to perceive that in these two cases, family man as well as that of an employee, which role requires a priority at that moment. He needs to analyze, he needs to understand, and then accordingly he has to act. Okay, so the next one is role expectation, how others believe one should act in a given situation. So along with role perception, I explained you the concept of a role expectation. Or else a very good example for this is, if you have seen the adventures of the Tintin, there that captain, he's drunk. That captain is always drunk and he's always boozed up every time. What happens because of his behavior? What happens? What is the role expected by him? His role is to the role expected by him is to that he has to properly drive the ship, take the ship properly to the dock, and see to it that everybody who has boarded his ship are also safely sent to the required place. But what happens to the captain? He this is the basic role expectation from a captain of a ship. Okay, but because of his addiction, because of his inability to understand at that moment. He is unable to properly deal with his roles. Okay, so role expectation concept, I told you role expectation means a job is there, and how a position is there for the person, and what is expected by that person to act in that role. Okay, the next is role conflict. Conflict arises when the duties of one role conflict with the duties of another role. Single person தான் class, ஒரே person தான், ஆனா அந்த ஒரே personக்கு வந்து multiple roles handle பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறது. Employee example நீங்க வைக்கலாம். Employee person is a family man, at the same time employee is somebody who works in an office also. ஓகே, ஸோ என்ன ஆயிடுறதுன்னா ப்ரையாரிட்டைசேஷன் ஒழுங்கா இருக்காததுனால நிறைய வாட்டி கான்ஃப்ளிக்ட் ஆஃப் ரோல்ஸ் ஆயிடுறது. Where because of work he is unable to give time to the family, because of that from family he is facing a conflict. At the same time, because of family he is unable to give importance to work. That's why in work he is facing a conflict. In a very good example here you can see the example of a working woman. Like as you can see, her role is when she is in an organization she is a working employee, but at home she is a cook. So if she gets delayed from office, if she gets delayed from office, so by the time she reaches home, she won't get time for herself. She has to immediately start cooking and see to it all the needs of the family are satisfied. So that becomes a challenge for women, that becomes a challenge for men. So this is what this because of this challenge, because of this prioritization, inappropriate prioritization, what happens? The conflict arises when the duties of one person conflict with the duties of other person. இன்னொரு பெஸ்ட் எக்ஸாம்பிள்னா ஒரு மீட்டிங் நடக்கிறது. அந்த மீட்டிங்கில் ஒன் எம்ப்ளாயி இஸ் ஆக்சுவலி ஷீ இஸ் தேர் இன் த மீட்டிங், ஷீ இஸ் ஃபிசிக்கலி present, but she is mentally reminded of her kid who is at home waiting for her, and she is getting late to go home because of the meeting. ஸோ அப்போ இருக்கச்சு அங்கே வந்து ரோல் கான்ஃப்ளிக்ட் ஆயிடுறது, because she is neither able to focus on the task given to her, neither she is able to focus on her child. So I have given sufficient examples on role conflict class, so you can understand. Class, in this slide I am unable to show you an appropriate picture for the same, but I can explain you my best what it means. Norms are the acceptable standards of behavior within a group that are shared by the members. The best way of understanding norms in a group was well observed and understood through Hawthorne studies. Their complete appreciation of group behavior and its influence of work groups was identified by the Hawthorne studies. What they discovered was the groups established a set of behaviors. So some of these behaviors were had come up simply because they were being observed. In other situations, the group collectively established a group norm of production, and those individuals that violated the norm by overachieving were ridiculed for not following the established unspoken norm. So here how it goes is like if you are all aware, in the first unit I have already explained you what had happened in the Hawthorne studies. Okay, so we can take Hawthorne studies as a very good example for the norms. Norms are a set of rules which is expected to be followed when you are in an organization, when you are in a group. Okay, so in the Hawthorne studies, what had happened, if you remember, the employees' performance improved. Their performance improved when the managers were individually taking interest on them, were individually leading them, were individually observing the employees how they are working, what they are working. When the employees were giving, when the managers were giving proper attention to the employees, automatically the production increased. So if a manager is around, the behavior which was presented by the group people was different. It was more on a formal basis, it was more as being very efficient. Okay, but at the same time, when the manager was not around, the group wasn't being very efficient, it was taking its own time to complete the task. So that is what it was found through this. It happens pretty easily that class, if for example during exams in semesters you come to college. Okay, I just leave you thinking that during I just leave you thinking that you are studying in the class. Okay, After some time what happens, I'm in my staff room, okay, but after some time when I come in, when I am there in the class, you properly, you open your books and all of you start studying, you maintain silence. I'm just giving you an example. But when I'm away from you, you all start interacting with each other, you all start talking with each other. So the behavior, as you can see, there is a stark difference between the behavior when you show when I am absent or when you show when I am present in the class. Okay, so that is how the norms are established. There are common classes of norms. Performance norms, the group will determine what is an acceptable level of effort, product and outcome should exist in the workplace. Yes, performance norms na inga vandu performance norms na they are explaining the performance standards. If நீ ப்ராப்பரா நீ behavior perform பண்ணனா அப்ப வந்து they know what is the level of efforts is expected, that everybody has to follow that level of expectation. So that was established. Appearance norms. Appearance norms means the group will determine how members should dress when they should be busily working and when they can take a break, and what kind of loyalty is shown to the leader and the company. Very true. Appearance norms na இப்போ வந்து நீங்க dressing la da major they are explaining. If you go to a party, you dress in more of a casual kind of a dresses and you go and attend the party. But you are attending an interview, or if you are going to an office, you will be dressed up in a very formal way. So that is based on similar lines. Only appearance norms were established here. Then social arrangement norms. The group regulates interaction between its members. Yes, and the social arrangement la how group they are interacting with each other. If manager இருந்தானா மேனேஜரோட அந்த group எப்படி interact பண்ணுறது, மேனேஜர் இல்லாமல் இண்டிவிஜுவலாக அந்த group எப்படி interact பண்ணுறது, that was also observed. Then allocation of resources norms, that is the group or the organization originates the standards by which pay, new equipment and even difficult tasks are assigned. Yes, suppose if a task requires you a lot of efforts, okay, so there will be a timetable set for that and there will be a specific amount given for that. So that particular amount would be kept aside. A very good example for this would be like when you are in your psycho clubs, when you know that an event is going to come up, you expect some amount of money to kept aside so that you can organize an event successfully. So that's how through this Hawthorne studies that were, so that is an example of the allocation of resources norms. So through the Hawthorne studies, people could understand that or employee வந்து இவ்வளோ efforts கொடுத்தானா எவ்வளோ pay அந்த எம்ப்ளாய்க்கு கொடுத்தானா it will be correct. இல்ல அந்த பர்டிகுலர் டாஸ்க் முடியறதுக்கு வரைக்கும் எவ்வளோ அதுக்கு வந்து நம்ம எவ்வளோ அதுக்கு வந்து செப்பரேட்டா we need to keep the money. Even that's how happens in an industrial setup also. When you have a new project, when you see to it that that project needs to be completed, so you will have the officials, they will keep a separate amount of money for that, and based on that they will start working. Or maybe apart from the money, the kind of resources they require, like a table, like a blueprint, like all those things, a separate laptop, all those things would be designed as per the target, as per the task which is given to you. Okay, if you wish to be accepted by a particular group, you may conform to that group's norms even before you have become a part of it. Conformity is what it is, adjusting to one's behavior to align with the norms of a particular group. In the conformity example லனா நீங்க அந்த Solomon Asch experiment நீங்க பாத்தீங்களானா ஒரு பர்சன் மட்டும் கரெக்டா அந்த ஆன்சர் கொடுத்தாங்க. ஆனா என்ன ஆச்சு, பாக்கி எல்லா பேர் இருக்கிற 7 பேர்ல ஒருத்தன் மட்டும் தான் ஒழுங்கா ஆன்சர் கொடுத்தான். பாக்கி 6 பேரும் வந்து அவங்க வந்து தப்பா ஆன்சர் கொடுத்தான். ஆனா அந்த ஒருத்தன் எவன் கரெக்டா ஆன்சர் கொடுத்தானோ அவன் எவ்வளவு யோசிச்சான். Because he was feeling like if we say something, நம்ம எங்கேயான தப்பாயிட்டோம்னா என்ன ஆகும், if we become a fool for the situation, how it will be. ஸோ அதனால இருக்கிறதா அந்த பையனுக்கு நல்லா தெரிஞ்சது that um, what is the correct what is the correct length of the line. But what did he do, எல்லாரும் வந்து ஒரு 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 figure கொடுத்ததுனால he saw to it that he also abide by that. So conformity is adjusting to one's behavior to align with the norm of a particular group. You can connect with this conformity experiment by watching and observing that group to better understand its expectations. You are using the group as a reference group. பாருங்க இந்த ASH experimentலயே இருக்கிற 7 பேர்ல வந்து பாத்தீங்களானா ஒருத்தர் மட்டும் தான் கரெக்டான ஆன்சர் கொடுத்தான். ஆனா மொத்தம் 6 பேரும் they gave wrong answers, but that guy, he took that wrong answer as a standard. So that is why he also conformed with them. Okay, so here the reference group is also the group itself. All right. So when people act outside a group's norms, perhaps a manager makes sexual advances to his assistants, or one co-worker spreads vicious rumors about another. This is referred to as deviant workplace behavior. So norms வந்து if நம்ம norms follow பண்ணல, norms against நம்ம போகணும்னா, suppose we are defaming the manager, or the manager is behaving inappropriately, or one co-worker is spreading wrong information about an employee, or wrong information about the manager, about the company. All these are considered as a deviant workplace behavior. That also falls under norms, because if நம்ம ஒரு set norms நம்ம follow பண்ணலனா, அந்த norms against நம்ம போனோம்னா, it is referred to as deviant workplace behavior. It is as good as somebody called as an antisocial element if that person doesn't abide to the social norms in the society. If he goes against the society, he is considered as an antisocial element. So எப்படி சொசைட்டிக்கு அது அங்கே அப்ளிகபிளாக இருக்கோ, இதே மாதிரி இந்த ஒர்க் பிளேஸில் கூட அந்த ஒர்க் பிளேஸில் அவங்க ஒரு ரூல்ஸ் கொடுத்துருப்பாங்க. நார்ம்ஸ்னா ரூல்ஸ், அந்த ரூல்ஸ் அது அபாய்ட் பண்ணி தான் ஆகணும். ரூல்ஸ்க்கு நம்ம ஒழுங்கா அபாய்ட் பண்ணலைன்னா, then it is considered as a deviant workplace behavior.